One of the biggest problems with board games is that they usually require a group of people to enjoy them. However, that's not always the case. In fact, there is a growing number of amazing titles that can be played or are designed for just one person. So if you're looking to sit down with a board game for a solo gaming session, here are 7 amazing games to get started with. Off the coast of Spain, on shimmering waters, take to your boat, send out nets, then return home to make the most delicious tinned fish. This is a solo game all about, unsurprisingly, fishing. Throughout the year, you'll be trying to reach monthly goals, but they're not limited to raking in the most cash. Instead, you'll be working to protect the oceans where you work, slowly growing your business, managing employees, and everything else that goes into setting up a small but thriving business. You start at sea, drawing tokens to place on your boat as a catch and spawning life in the open ocean. Then you head inland for some business management, buying upgrade cards like bundling your catches or saving up for extra ships to add to your fleet. And finally, you can sell your catches, earning cash for your delicious conservas. To win the game, you need to balance business success with maintaining a healthy ocean. If you overfish, there'll be nothing left, but at the same time, you need to bring in enough for the upkeep of your boats and to keep the company growing. The game changes throughout the year, keeping things fresh month on month, making it fun to piece together new strategic choices each time. So if you want to take your favorite activity from cozy games and expand it into a fun afternoon, then Conservas is the game for you. Lead a coven of witches in a world where magic is real and monsters roam the earth. Together you'll fight against the evils that lurk in the dark, but be careful. Reveal too much to your fellow villagers and you could be imprisoned for witchcraft. Which, yes, you're doing, but is helping them so they can just shut up. Throughout the game, you'll have to convince the villagers that your magic is good, actually, unlike the monsters, with 3 jurors deciding your fate by the end of the game. Each time you play, you can select different people to judge you, with new missions and challenges, giving you plenty of options for replaying in the future. You start the game by building up a coven, selecting from witchy households, bringing in people with different powers to learn more of the jurors' plans, boosting attacks, and even catching familiars to aid in a fight. The monsters you face are iconic figures, from the Headless Horseman to Baba Yaga, all presented in wonderful gothic art that immerses you in this strange world. Witchcraft plays quickly, in just 20 to 40 minutes, so if you want a little dip into a weird and wonderful setting with fast-paced card play and a spooky theme, then grab a broom and get playing Witchcraft. Usually, co-op board games make for the best solos as they're designed with playing against the game already in mind. And no game has more plaudits for co-op board game fans across the world than the crunchy Euro Spirit Island. Taking the role of natural forces on a tropical isle, you'll need to combine the powers of each of the island's spirit to beat back an invading force of colonists looking to claim and exploit the island you call home. The indigenous peoples of the land will only be able to do so much to protect their homestead from these dangerous invaders, and they'll need your help to quell the incoming blight. This isn't a by-the-numbers dudes on a map wargame, however. You won't be mustering troops and rolling combat dice. Instead, the natural powers of the rivers, the earth, and the storms under your control will provide boons for natives and destructive hostile terrain for the European settlers. Spirit Island is a tight game of resource and time management that sees you desperately try to hold back the invading forces using clever card play and combos. It's a complex web of events that will be a little trickier for newer gamers, but rewards the patience you'll need to show in learning its rule set with what many consider one of the world's best co-op board games. Of solo board games, you might think of a chill afternoon with a cup of tea, blankets at the ready, and calming music on. But That's not always the case. They can be just as intense and exciting as a game with a big group. Enter Final Girl. You play as the titular horror protagonist and must kill the slasher stalking you if you want to survive and win, or lose all your health and meet a grisly end. So if you're looking for a cozy game, maybe skip forward, but if you want a game with some bite, then grab your flashlight and keep listening. In Final Girl, you'll be searching your map from the summer campgrounds to an unsettling carnival, picking up items, searching for the killer, and saving other victims who help you power up your final girl, eventually flipping your character card to reveal her unique strength. There are tons of different girls, killers, and settings to play and combine if you enjoy the series, letting you live out some of your favourite horror tropes, be it haunted houses or axe-wielding maniacs. As the game goes on, time will start running out, giving you less actions. The killer will start picking off victims and grow in power, ramping up the tension just like your favourite horror flick. Final Girl clearly loves the genre, playing into all the best tropes while providing a well-balanced solo experience with tons of expansions to crack into, like a bloody axe on a victim's skull. Too much? Okay, for a complete palate cleanser after that, how about some time outside with a trowel instead of a killer clown? Three Sisters sees you turn your backyard into a thriving garden. From a vegetable patch to apiary, compost heap, shed, stacks of harvested goods, flowers, your hobby quickly becomes a serious production. Each turn you'll roll dice and decide where to spend your time and resources. Will you plant seeds, harvest fruit, tend to your bees, upgrade equipment in your shed? And even within those options, there are tons of choices to make. If you plant seeds, are you focusing on beans and corn, or pumpkins that lead to flowers and power-ups? It's a surprisingly complicated little game as you manage your garden, and in solo mode, compete against fellow farmer Edith, who uses turns to sabotage your lovely green space. She's mean and doesn't hold back, so you'll be balancing managing what she's done to ruin your garden with picking the best strategy to gain those precious victory points. If you're looking for a cozy theme with some serious thinking, Three Sisters perfectly toes both lines. You can focus on just growing all your pumpkins for personal satisfaction, or try and game the system, using fruit trees to trigger rainfall, going to big on the farmer's market, whatever you need to win. There's a lot to unpick and play, and once you finish your first season, you'll want to sit down and do it all over again, teamed with fresh gardening knowledge and a hatred of Edith that knows no bounds. Who made Codenames, you might not expect a sprawling fantasy epic made for just one player, but if there's one thing Vlada Chvátil loves to do, it's keep us guessing. Mage Knight sees the solo player take on the role of one of the titular Mage Knights, seeking adventure in a world once ruled by the now crumbling Atlantean Empire. The Mage Knights are powerful and charismatic leaders that want to stake their claim on the cities and territories that now lay in disrepair, just waiting for a new person to sit in their cushy thrones. Originally a collectible miniature wargame published by WizKids, Mage Knight was relaunched as a strategy board game in 2013. With it comes all the lore, pomp, and circumstance that proceeded from multiple miniature releases and multiple novels written about the game's world before the board game was developed. But rather than focusing on small skirmishes of important characters, Mage Knight zooms right out to deliver an adventuring experience through its fantasy world, allowing players to storm cities and delve into deep, dark caves full of monsters and treasures. Not just a moving miniatures around the table type game, Mage Knight sees the player engaging in a satisfying combat puzzle, making the most of their actions on each turn whilst combining it with a deck building experience that allows you to customize your forces for the fights ahead. Mage Knight is definitely a crunchy game, not one for the faint of heart. In fact, despite it being a game that plays with multiple players, most see it as a superior solo experience, largely due to the sheer amount of downtime each player can experience when the active player is thinking through their turn. Each of the playable Mage Knights have their own powers and expertise, and a range of characters offers some replayability for repeat players if you're not dishing them out amongst a big group. If you're looking for a cozy afternoon of gaming with a cup of tea and a whimsical world, then look no further than Mythwind. You're playing to establish a new town in a magical valley. From crafting new buildings, going on adventures through the land, picking a character profession, and building relationships with mysterious sprites who inhabit your town. There isn't a collection of victory points you need to reach, you just follow the story as it unfolds and end the game when you've explored and built as much as you want, so you can't just keep on playing if you're not ready to step away. In a game, you'll be taking days one at a time, starting with looking after the town by building new establishments or hiring workers. Then you can take part in the wider adventure by pulling a card and selecting prompts in a choose-your-own-adventure style story. And finally, every character has a unique thing they can do, from farming to crafting. It's a chill, cozy game that's perfect to crack out for a relaxed afternoon of gaming when you're looking for a nice story over lots of crunchy gameplay. Plus, Mythwind can also play with up to 4 people, so you can still bring a friend along if you want someone else to join your cozy adventure. So those were 7 solo games you should be playing this year. Let me know your favourites in the comments below. If you want to discover more great board games and beyond, then subscribe to the channel as we always have new videos coming out with things you should play. Or head over to our website, dicebreaker.com, for daily news and updates on all things tabletop. For now though, until we see you in the next one, have a lovely day.